Egypt became a symbol of sin throughout the Bible from this point onwards. Immediately after leaving Egypt, God instituted the routine sacrifice of animals for the sins of the Israelites until the death of Jesus Christ. The Israelites did as the Lord commanded, and thousands of lives received salvation and deliverance. Their lives were spared. The firstborns were spared. But to those who did not obey the plan of salvation, they received judgment. Let's read Exodus chapter 12, 29 to 31. And it came to pass at midnight that the Lord struck all the firstborn in the land of Egypt, from the firstborn of Pharaoh who sat on his throne to the firstborn of the captive who was in the dungeon, and all the firstborn of livestock. So Pharaoh rose in the night, he, all his servants, and all the Egyptians, and there was a great cry in Egypt, for there was not a house where there was not one dead. Then he called for Moses and Aaron by night, and said, Rise, go out from among my people, both you and the children of Israel, and go, serve the Lord as you have said. The blood not only had to be shed, but it had to also be applied. If they did not obey, if the children of Israel did not obey what God said to do, they would have lost many lives. The lamb's blood, and that was the blood of Jesus Christ, is applied for us, is applied at baptism in the New Testament. Now think about this for a moment. If I were in, surely the Egyptians and Hebrews, some of them were friends. And during the times of the plagues, when, I can just imagine an Egyptian looking at a Hebrew, and it's like, I have balls on my hands and my face and my body, and it's so painful, and I look at you and you are doing great. If I as an Egyptian, what if an Egyptian family had obeyed the plan of salvation? After going through the plagues and seeing that the children of Israel were spared those plagues, if I were an Egyptian family and I see a Hebrew family killing a lamb, and taking the blood and painting on it on the doorpost, I'm going to be curious. And I'm going to be looking at them and say, okay, what are they going to do now? What is the plan of God for them that they can be spared from this plague? I would think that there would be Egyptian families that would have been smart enough after going through so many plagues that, okay, the children of Israel are doing something different, and if I want to be spared, I better follow them. So think with me, what if an Egyptian family had obeyed the plan of salvation? If they had gone over to a Hebrew family and asked, what are you doing? And the Hebrew family actually told them the plan of salvation. And the Egyptian family actually obeyed and killed the lamb without blemish and applied the blood to the doorposts and the frames of their homes. Would they too have been saved? What if a Hebrew family, now that's the flip side, what if a Hebrew family whom God wanted to save believed that God was going to save them but did not obey the plan of salvation? They just sat at home and said, okay, God's just going to save me. I don't have to kill a lamb. They didn't kill the lamb, didn't put the blood on their doorposts. Even though they were Hebrew, would they still be saved? The answer is, if an Egyptian family had obeyed the plan of salvation, they too would have received salvation. But and on the converse, if a Hebrew family believed that God was going to save them and did not obey the plan of salvation, they wouldn't be. This is an important principle for us to know, and this is our key number 4, that obedience was and is always part of God's plan of salvation. Finally, Pharaoh agreed to let the children of Israel go. Let's read Exodus chapter 13, verses 17 to 21. Then Pharaoh had let the people go. God led the people around by the way of the wilderness of the Red Sea, and the children of Israel went up in orderly ranks out of the land of Egypt. And the Lord went before them by day in a pillar of cloud to lead the way, and by night in a pillar of fire to give them light. God was the one that led the children of Israel out of Egypt. There wasn't road signs, there weren't maps at that time, so they didn't know where to go. But God was their leader, and God led them on the way that they should go. And how did He do that? He was a pillar of cloud in the day and a pillar of fire for them at night. Wow, it was an awesome thing to see God leading the people of Israel at that time. Now this verse also tells us that God led the people around by the way of the wilderness or the Red Sea. And this Red Sea was a huge body of water that they could not cross over. And the problem was that now, facing this Red Sea, Pharaoh had changed his mind, and he had decided to pursue after the children of Israel with chariots and horsemen. They were ready to make war and kill the children of Israel. The children of Israel were slaves. They didn't have weapons. They didn't have any kind of war weapons that could protect them. There was no way that they could fight and win, but God was their protection, and God protected them. So behind them was the army of Egypt, and in front of them was the Red Sea. It seemed like the children of Israel had nowhere to run. But let's read Exodus chapter 14, 9 to 26 and 28. And the angel of the Lord, who went before the camp of Israel, moved and went behind them. And a pillar of cloud went from before them and stood behind them. So it came between the camp of the Egyptians and the camp of Israel. Thus it was a cloud and darkness to the one, and it gave light by night to the other, so that the one did not come near the other all that night. Then Moses stretched out his hand over the sea, and the Lord caused the sea to go back by a strong east wind all that night, and made the sea into dry land, and the waters were divided. So the children of Israel went into the midst of the sea on the dry ground, and the waters were a wall to them on their right hand and on their left. And the Egyptians pursued and went after them into the midst of the sea, all Pharaoh's horses, his chariots, and his horsemen. Now it came to pass in the morning watch that the Lord looked down upon the army of the Egyptians through the pillar of fire and cloud, and he took off their chariot wheels so that they drove them with difficulty. And the Egyptians said, "Let us flee from the face of Israel, for the Lord fights for them against the Egyptians." Then the Lord said to Moses, "Stretch out your hand over the sea, and the waters may come back upon the Egyptians, on their chariots and on their horsemen." Then the waters returned and covered the chariots, the horsemen, and all the army of Pharaoh that came into the sea after them. Not so much as one of them remained. It seemed like God led the children of Israel to the Red Sea, a seemingly impossible obstacle to cross. But sometimes God will lead us to seemingly impossible things in our lives only to set the stage for the greatest miracle. God parted the Red Sea. Can you imagine the children of Israel walking through dry land, and they had two sides of them, the sides that they were in, there were walls of water, and they could put their finger in it, maybe reach in and, kind of touch a coral, or reach in and take out a starfish, and there was just walls of water on their right and on their left, and they walked through dry ground. It was a miracle. God continued to lead the children of Israel and provided for them in the wilderness. God provided for all the needs of the Israelites. Going through the wilderness and living in the desert, there was no food, there was no water, and it was difficult for them to find water, but God made bitter waters sweet, and God provided miracle water for the children of Israel to drink. God rained down manna. Manna was bread from heaven, and quail. The children of Israel actually complained when they didn't have meat to eat, and all they had was bread. And God rained down quail that they might have meat. God provided miracle food for the children of Israel. When there was no water, God provided water from a rock. Again, he provided miracle water. This brings us to key number 5. If we follow God with obedience, he will supply all our needs.